Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing Unforgiven. So Unforgiven came out in 1992 and it was directed by and starring Clint Eastwood, and this film also stars Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman and Richard Harris. Clint Eastwood, he plays an aging outlaw called William Munny, and William Munny, well, he used to be an outlaw back in the day, but he now works on a pig farm with his two kids, but he gets drawn into going back for one last bounty hunt to chase after these two guys who have beaten up this woman and cut her up, basically. So William Munny, played by Clint Eastwood, he wants to go after these two guys. Clint Eastwood pairs up with Morgan Freeman's character, Ned Logan. Then the both of them team up with this other guy known as the Schofield Kid, who is this younger guy who basically wants to be a bit of an outlaw as well and looks up to the two older guys, Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood. We also see Gene Hackman in this film. He really plays the villain in this film. He plays a sheriff known as Little Bill, and he runs this town very strictly that he's in, and basically every time somebody comes into the town, he confiscates their weapons and he doesn't want anyone to be armed. If anybody that comes into the town looks slightly dodgy, Little Bill basically either beats them up or he chucks them in jail or sends them away. We also get an appearance from Richard Harris in this film. He plays a character called English Bob, who has, and English Bob has a bit of reputation for being very good with a gun, being a very good shot, and everyone sort of watches out for him when he's around. So most of this film is following Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman really as they're trying to find these two guys. And these two guys that they're after are basically being protected by the sheriff, Gene Hackman's character, Little Bill. This film is clever in the way it shows things from Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood's point of view, and also at the same time does show some scenes from Gene Hackman's point of view. So it's not as though this film really shows a clear-cut good and bad guys, because although it's quite obvious that William Munny and Ned Logan, these are the two guys we're supposed to be rooting for, but we do also see some things from Little Bill's, Gene Hackman's point of view as well. So it's really clever the way they tie things together. I did find a little bit that there was, with the scenes with Richard Harris's character, English Bob, it did seem at first that it wasn't really related to the main story, and that it sort of almost felt like it was cutting away from what was going on with Ned Logan and William Munny. But eventually you do realise it is that there are quite good scenes with English Bob, and it really does mesh into the story quite well in the end. So as a Western, I think this is a fantastic film. It's a very dark Western. It's a very dark film. It's not like a lot of Westerns you get from the 50s and 60s, which are a lot more colourful and bright. This one has a really dark tone to it. And even just watching the first few scenes, you can tell that it's going to be quite a dark film. I think that Clint Eastwood did a very good job of directing this. So this film actually won 4 Oscars. It won the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director for Clint Eastwood, and Gene Hackman also won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. I can certainly see why, because he plays Little Bill very well in this film. He's in some ways, Little Bill as a character, he does run his town quite well, but he sort of takes it a bit too far and is very ruthless with his punishments and the way he deals with things. So this is where we get William Munny, Clint Eastwood's character, and he's very different to Gene Hackman's character. So Clint Eastwood in this film, he's a little bit clumsy at first. Obviously, Clint Eastwood was a bit older in this film. He was in his 60s now. In some scenes at the start, we see him struggle to get on his horse and he falls over quite a lot. When he's tending to the pigs, he falls over in the mud. And we can tell as the audience that maybe he's getting quite old, he maybe wouldn't be up for the job as we would hope he would be for. But as the story goes on, we see he does very well, and the scene at the end, which I won't spoil, is very good, and it's probably Clint Eastwood's best moment in the film. It's really nice to see Clint Eastwood in a Western when he was older as well, because this was actually Clint Eastwood's last Western. Obviously, Clint Eastwood had been in lots of westerns in the 60s, mostly with Sergio Leone, and also some in the 70s as well. And this film was almost a tribute to Clint Eastwood's older films, from the spaghetti westerns in the 60s to the Dirty Harry films in the 70s. And at the end of the film, he actually does a tribute to Sergio Leone, who directed him in the spaghetti westerns, and also Don Siegel, who directed him in the Dirty Harry films. Morgan Freeman is also very good in this film as well. He also has a few funny lines in this film, Morgan Freeman, to be honest, which I quite like. It seems to add a little bit of humour into the film, because overall this isn't a particularly funny film, but yeah, Morgan Freeman, he has a few funny bits which I think work very well. Yeah, Kid Schofield is a character. He's a very interesting character as well, because he's very young. He seems to think he's the bee's knees basically, and he's better than everyone else, and is always boasting about that he's killed 5 people. But I think that Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman sort of can see that maybe he's not all he's cracked up to be after all. I would recommend this film for anyone who enjoys westerns, but when you go into viewing this, don't expect it to be a typical western, because it's certainly not like a lot of the westerns of the old days. It's a lot darker and a lot grittier. Well, obviously being a western, it is quite violent, and there are a few scenes which are quite dark in this film, but I think when you're watching a film and you know it's a western and that Clint Eastwood's in it, you know it's going to be a great film, and this one is no exception. So I can't think of anything particularly bad to say about the film. So I'm going to give Unforgiven a rating of 9 out of 10, because I think it's an exceptionally good film, and probably one of the best westerns, although there are other westerns I prefer to this film. I definitely think it's worth a watch if you think it sounds like your sort of thing. So that is Unforgiven. So what do you guys think? Have you seen Unforgiven? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Please let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.